Adam, a young millionaire, was rushing to a critical meeting when he noticed a destitute woman standing in the pouring rain, clutching a tiny baby. Moved by an overwhelming sense of compassion, he handed her the keys to his luxurious home, not realizing how this one act of kindness would alter both of their lives forever. When he returned later, what he found left him shaken and changed in ways he never expected. This is a story of selfless generosity, unexpected connections, and the transformative power of love. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. A young millionaire, on the verge of missing a critical meeting, caught sight of a destitute woman cradling an infant in her arms, drenched by the relentless downpour. In an impulsive act of compassion, he handed her the keys to his lavish home, driven by an inexplicable urge to offer solace. Hours later, as he returned, he entered his home unannounced, only to be gripped by a profound sense of dread at the sight that awaited him. Amid the bustling cityscape of Boston, Adam strode through the grand hall of one of the nation's most esteemed architectural gatherings. The evening, though enveloped in grandeur and elegance, served a far nobler purpose to garner support for affordable housing initiatives. The event, a blend of high society's glitter and a veneer of altruism, drew the crème de la crème, giving them a platform to blend philanthropy with prestige. Architects of great renown, Adam included, had generously offered their designs to breathe life into these projects, turning blueprints into homes for those in need. Yet, beneath the sheen of success, Adam carried the weight of personal tragedy and unspeakable loss that had reshaped his very existence. The whispers among the elite hinted at a shift in his demeanor, a retreat into solitude following the untimely death of his young wife and the heavy burden of caring for his ailing father. To some, he appeared withdrawn, a shadow of his former self. But those attuned to the trials of life recognized his quiet demeanor as a shield against the storms he faced. Amid the opulent surroundings, Adam encountered Lillian, a legendary figure in the architectural world, revered for her vast experience and illustrious career. "Adam, it's always inspiring to see you at these events," Lillian remarked, her gaze piercing through the superficiality around them. "I've heard about your recent endeavors, not just in your work, but also in caring for your father. That's truly admirable." Adam offered a restrained smile and a nod, feeling a deep disconnect from the opulent environment that surrounded them. Perceptive as ever, Lillian continued, "These gatherings often mask the true nature of things, but every now and then they reveal something genuine. What brings you here tonight, Adam? It seems like there's more on your mind than just networking." A melancholy smile tugged at Adam's lips. "I'm here out of obligation rather than desire. My life isn't defined by architecture alone. It's been shaped by much deeper currents, the lessons passed down to me by my father." His voice softened as memories flooded in. "My father, despite all the hardships he endured, always found ways to help others. He was a man of humble means, but his heart was boundless. He raised me on his own, and every sacrifice he made taught me something invaluable." Lillian listened with rapt attention, her expression reflecting the deep respect she felt for Adam's words. It's rare to meet someone who upholds those values, especially someone as accomplished as you are. Your father must be an extraordinary man. A warm smile touched Adam's lips, his eyes bright with pride. He truly is. He did everything he could to support us, from fixing broken appliances for neighbors to tutoring kids in the evenings. He always told me that a man's greatest wealth isn't in what he owns, but in what he can give to others. Lillian nodded, her gaze softening with understanding. "That explains so much about who you are, Adam, and how you navigate your life and career. There's wisdom in that wisdom many people here could benefit from." Adam chuckled, appreciating her kind words. "I just try to live in a way that would make my father proud. He's always believed that the true architecture of life is in building bridges between people, in creating spaces where understanding and compassion can flourish." Lillian's smile deepened, tinged with genuine admiration. She, too, had started with very little, working her way up through dedication and resilience to become one of the most respected figures in her field. But behind her success lay an unspoken sorrow, a longing for a family she had never started, a chapter of her life she kept hidden from the world. As the evening drew to a close, Adam left the event, driving home in silence. His house, though grand, had become less of a mere residence and more of a sanctuary, a place where he could retreat from the chaos of the outside world and reconnect with the values his father had instilled in him. When he arrived home, he found his father, Mr. Robert, comfortably settled on the couch, watching an old television show. Despite the toll of illness on his body, his father's spirit remained as vibrant as ever, his mind sharp with the same wisdom that had guided Adam through life. "How was the event?" son Mr. Robert asked, his eyes bright with curiosity. "Did they manage to raise a decent amount?" "It went well," Adam replied, sitting beside his father. "Though, as usual, the air was thick with people who think their money makes them invincible. But we raised a lot of funds, and I had a meaningful conversation with Lillian about the impact our work can have on society." Mr. Robert nodded approvingly, a soft smile on his face. "Good to hear. It's important work, what you're doing. Always remember that, no matter how many egos you have to navigate." Adam rose from his seat, heading toward the kitchen. "I'm going to whip up something for us to eat. Is there anything specific you'd like?" "Anything will do," son Mr. Robert responded, his voice filled with gratitude. "Don't go through too much trouble on my account." Adam smiled over his shoulder, feeling a deep sense of peace settle over him. The conversation with Lillian lingered in his mind, but it was the quiet presence of his father, the man who had shaped him with unwavering love and wisdom, that truly grounded him. Later that evening, as Adam helped his father settle into bed, he gently mentioned his plans for the following day. "Dad, I've got an important meeting tomorrow morning for the new project. I'll make sure everything's organized here before I go, and Mrs. Martinez has promised to stop by and check on you." Mr. Robert, comfortably nestled in bed, looked at his son with tender eyes that spoke volumes. "You've always been a good son, Adam. Don't worry about me. Go ahead and take care of what needs to be done. I couldn't be prouder of you." It was impossible to miss the admiration in Mr. Robert's voice. He had weathered countless storms in the past. When Adam's mother had walked away, leaving them both behind, Mr. Robert had shouldered the immense responsibility of raising his son alone. Despite the crushing weight of financial struggles, he had always placed Adam's education above all else, believing it was the key to a brighter future. Every penny he earned went toward ensuring his son had access to the best opportunities. Adam, with a heart full of gratitude, seized each one, transforming into the brilliant architect he is today. And even after his success, Adam never allowed himself to forget the sacrifices his father had made. He remained by Mr. Robert's side, offering the same unwavering love and care that had been his foundation throughout childhood. The next morning, Adam rose before dawn, ready to tackle the significant day ahead. He dressed with precision, choosing a tailored suit that would match the weight of the crucial meeting awaiting him in the neighboring city. But before heading out, he made a quick call to confirm his schedule. "Good morning, Mr. Connor. I'm just about to leave and should be there soon," Adam said, finalizing his plans. As he stepped outside, the sky darkened and the heavens unleashed a torrential downpour. His driver, familiar with Adam's routines and destinations, had already positioned the car out front, waiting to whisk him away. "It looks like we're in for some tough weather," Mr. Adam, the driver, remarked, noticing the relentless rain as Adam approached. The journey was slow, hindered by the chaotic traffic that had been thrown into disarray by the storm. Adam watched the rain relentlessly beat against the window, his mind drifting between thoughts of the upcoming meeting and the endless to-do lists that seemed to define his days. But then, something outside the window snapped him back to the present, a fleeting image that made his heart skip a beat. On the roadside, soaked to the bone and trembling under the merciless rain, stood a woman clutching a tiny newborn baby, her thin, frail frame hunched over the child, desperately trying to shield it from the unforgiving elements. The raw image of desperation and vulnerability pierced through Adam's soul. "Stop the car," Adam said abruptly, his voice resolute. "I need to help that woman." The driver, familiar with Adam's empathetic nature, hesitated. "But Mr. Adam, the rain will ruin your suit, and we still have the meeting. We're already behind schedule." But Adam's decision had already been made. "I don't care about the suit, and the meeting can wait. That woman and her baby can't." Without another word, Adam pushed open the car door and stepped out into the downpour, the rain immediately soaking through his clothes. He approached the woman, his heart heavy with concern. Kneeling down beside her, he gently asked, "Can I help you? You and your baby can't stay out here in this weather. Do you have a place to go, a home?" The woman looked up at him, her eyes filled with both fear and gratitude. She shook her head, clutching the baby even tighter to her chest, as if her very life depended on it. Adam's mind raced. He had so much, yet here before him was a woman who had nothing but a fragile life in her arms. Without a second thought, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the keys to his house. Handing them to her, he said, "Take these. It's warm and safe there. You can stay as long as you need." Her eyes widened in disbelief, and tears mixed with rain streamed down her face. She nodded, unable to speak, as Adam gently helped her to her feet. "The address is on the keychain. Get out of this rain. I'll meet you there after my meeting." With one final glance, Adam returned to the car, now drenched but with a profound sense of purpose. The meeting would wait, because in that moment, nothing was more important than giving a mother and her child a chance to survive. Stella, still stunned and trying to shield her daughter from the relentless downpour, finally replied, "No, we have nowhere to go," though she didn't offer any more details about her situation. Adam, sensing the gravity of her predicament, felt a surge of urgency. He couldn't leave her, and the child in such dire straits. Without a second thought, he sprinted back to the car, rain soaking him to the bone, and instructed the driver to open the glove compartment. Reaching inside, he retrieved a set of keys. He returned to Stella, breathless but focused, and introduced himself quickly. "I'm Adam. What's your name?" "Stella," she answered, clutching her daughter tightly as if shielding her from more than just the rain. "Stella," Adam said, handing her the set of keys. "This is the key to my father's house. It's nearby and currently empty because he's staying with me. You and your daughter can stay there. It's warm and dry, and you'll be safe there." He glanced at his watch, aware of how late he already was, but the meeting paled in importance compared to helping Stella. "I have to go now, but my driver will take you there." Adam turned swiftly, heading back to the car. Once inside, now thoroughly soaked, he instructed the driver, "I'm walking to the meeting. You take Stella and her baby to my father's house, it's just down the road, and stop at the market on the way. Get them whatever they need, food, clothes, diapers, everything." The driver, familiar with Adam's compassionate nature, nodded without hesitation. "Of course, Mr. Adam. I'll take care of everything." As Adam stepped out of the car and started walking towards his meeting, the driver returned to where Stella was huddled with her daughter, still shielding the child from the rain. With a gentle smile, he approached her, speaking kindly, "Come on, don't worry. I'm here to take you to a safe place. Mr. Adam really wants to help you and your daughter." But Stella, understandably wary, looked at him with a mix of fear and mistrust. "I don't know you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've seen things on TV, bad things that happen. I can't just trust anyone." The driver, empathetic to her caution, responded in a calm, reassuring tone. I understand your fear. You don't know us, and you have every right to be careful. But I promise you, Mr. Adam is a good man with a big heart. He just wants to help." He then reached into his wallet, pulling out photos of his own family. "Look, I'm a father too. I've been working with Mr. Adam for years, and I can assure you, he truly cares about people." Stella studied the photos, seeing the genuine warmth in the driver's eyes. Though still cautious, she sensed this might be the chance for the shelter and safety she desperately needed. With a slight nod, she agreed to go with him, carefully climbing into the car while protecting her daughter from the rain. The driver, patient and kind, closed the door behind her and set off towards Adam's father's house, stopping first at a market to gather essentials: food, diapers, and clothing for the baby. By late afternoon, Adam emerged from his long and productive meeting, tired but satisfied with the day's work. His driver was waiting for him as usual. As soon as Adam climbed into the car, his first words were, "How did it go with Stella and her child? Did they arrive safely at my father's house?" The driver nodded. "Yes, Mr. Adam. They arrived safely. I dropped them off at the beginning of the street to make it easier to park the car. Stella and her daughter seemed relieved to finally have a place to rest." Adam, slightly taken aback by the driver's decision to leave Stella and her child at the end of the street, gently reprimanded him. "Next time, make sure to drop them off at the front door, especially with this rain and a small child. But it's okay, today was hectic for all of us. I'll stop by tomorrow to check on them and make sure they have everything they need." As the car drove on, Adam stared out the window, lost in thought. His mind lingered on Stella and her daughter, concerned but reassured that he had made the right choice by helping them. When Adam finally arrived home, he was greeted by Mrs. Rose, the caregiver who looked after his father in his absence. Her expression held a mix of surprise and concern, and Adam sensed that something unexpected had occurred. "Mr. Adam," Mrs. Rose began, her voice hesitant, "your father, Mr. Robert, took a copy of the keys to his house and went there as soon as you left. He said he wanted to spend a few days there. He mentioned feeling bored and a bit better." Adam's brow furrowed in disbelief. He went alone. But he knows he shouldn't have done that. His health. Mrs. Rose interrupted gently. "Yes, he went alone. He waited until you were gone because he knew you wouldn't let him go. He seemed very determined and said he felt well enough to manage on his own for a few days." Adam's heart sank as he thought about his father's sudden decision, especially knowing that Stella and her daughter were now staying at the house. The possible complications raced through his mind. Without another word, he instructed the driver to take him to his father's house immediately. As the car sped through the rain-soaked streets, Adam's worry grew. What if something had happened to his father? What if there had been an emergency? The tension gnawed at him, and by the time they reached the house, his worst fears seemed to have materialized. The front door was ajar, and an ambulance was parked outside. Panic surged through Adam as he rushed toward the scene, his heart pounding wildly. His father was being carried out on a stretcher. Adam ran inside, breathless and overwhelmed, desperate to understand what was happening. He approached the paramedics and quickly introduced himself. "I'm his son, what happened?" One of the paramedics, a doctor, looked at Adam with calm reassurance. "Your father had a stroke. Luckily, your wife was here and acted quickly. She called the ambulance in time, and that saved his life." Adam's emotions swirled in a whirlwind: relief that his father was alive, gratitude that Stella had been there, and the terrifying thought of how much worse it could have been. He followed the stretcher to the ambulance, determined to stay by his father's side during this critical moment. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, Adam remained shaken but grateful. He then turned back to the house, his thoughts immediately going to Stella and her daughter. Finding them inside, Adam tried to steady his nerves after the scare with his father. but the concern remained evident on his face. "Stella," he began, his voice still trembling slightly, I don't know how to thank you for everything you did. The doctor thought you were my wife." He offered a faint smile, trying to lighten the heavy atmosphere. Stella, realizing the weight of the situation, responded softly, "There's no need to thank me, Mr. Adam. I just did what anyone would do. I happened to be here at the right moment." Adam's eyes fell on the items Stella had purchased: simple, essential supplies. "I noticed you only bought the basics. You could have taken more. You don't need to hold back," he remarked, his concern deepening. "I want to make sure you have everything you need." Stella looked at him, a blend of gratitude and uncertainty in her eyes. "I didn't want to take advantage of your kindness. You've already done so much for us." A silence settled between them, a moment of quiet connection that seemed to bridge the gap between their vastly different lives. Adam felt an inexplicable bond forming, a deep empathy for this woman who had so unexpectedly entered his life. "Stella," Adam said gently, "I'd really like to know more about you and your daughter. How did you end up in this situation? If you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to listen and help in any way I can." Stella hesitated, but there was something in Adam's sincere expression that encouraged her to open up. She took a deep breath, knowing that this moment could be the start of something new for her and her daughter. Stella exhaled deeply, as if weighing the decision to share her story. Her gaze shifted between her daughter, who was nestled close, and Adam, who stood before her with genuine concern. Finally, she began, her voice steady but tinged with the weight of her past. "I never knew my mother," she said quietly. "I grew up with a father who might as well have been a stranger. He drank too much, and most of the time, I was invisible to him." Adam leaned in slightly, his attention fully on her, sensing the resilience beneath her words. "I always dreamed of studying," Stella continued, "but my father, he never allowed it. I would sneak books and read them in secret after he passed out, hoping for a better future that seemed so far away." She paused, lost in the memory of those nights filled with quiet hope. But as time went on, things only got worse. My father's drinking spiraled out of control, and I tried to help him, but nothing worked. He was a hard, angry man who frightened me more than anything. And then, one day I met someone. Her voice softened as she recalled that pivotal moment. He seemed perfect, kind, thoughtful. For a while I believed I had found someone who would give me the family I had always longed for. When I got pregnant, I was scared, but I also thought that maybe this was my chance at something good. Stella's eyes darkened with the memory of betrayal. But as soon as he found out about the pregnancy, he left. He disappeared without a word, and I never saw him again. I managed to keep the pregnancy hidden for a while, but when my father found out, she hesitated, her voice faltering. He was furious. There was no chance to explain. He threw me out with nothing, no money, no belongings, just the clothes on my back. Adam's heart ached as he listened. "How did you survive?" he asked, his voice thick with empathy. "I begged," Stella admitted, her voice quiet but unwavering. "I lived on the streets, doing whatever I could to get by. When my daughter was born, it was the homeless community that helped me. I was scared all the time, wary of everyone and everything, but I had to stay strong for her." Adam looked at Stella, seeing not only the pain etched in her features, but also an incredible strength that had carried her through unimaginable hardship. "You are so strong, Stella, what you've been through. It's an incredible testament to your resilience." Stella smiled, though it was laced with sadness. "I didn't have a choice. Life hasn't been kind, but I couldn't give up. Not for her. I'd go through it all again if it meant keeping her safe." She paused, her voice trembling with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. When I saw all the books your father had, I felt like I'd stepped into heaven. I've always loved to read, but I've never had access to so many books before." Adam's expression softened, and he smiled warmly. "You're welcome to read as much as you want, Stella. Consider the books yours too." As he prepared to leave, Adam reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to her with a gentle expression. "Here's something to help with expenses," he said softly, his voice filled with quiet compassion. Stella's eyes welled up with tears as she accepted the envelope, her gratitude evident in her trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, barely able to find the words. "I'll never forget this kindness." Adam gave her a reassuring nod. "You're not alone anymore, Stella. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll figure things out together." Stella stared at the envelope in her hands, feeling the weight of it both physically and emotionally. With trembling fingers, she carefully opened it, her eyes widening in shock at the amount of money inside. It was more than she had ever seen in her life. "Adam, this is too much. I can't accept all of this," she stammered, overwhelmed by the gesture. Adam gently placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm and reassuring. "Please, Stella, accept it. You need this more than I do. Use it for clothes, food, anything that you and your daughter need. It's not just money, it's a chance to rebuild, to start over." Tears welled up in Stella's eyes, and she blinked them back, feeling a flood of gratitude that she struggled to express. "I don't even know how to thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You're giving me more than help, you're giving me hope." For a moment, silence settled between them, a shared understanding passing in the quiet. Stella found herself studying Adam, a thought forming in her mind. She hesitated before asking, "May I ask, are you married, Adam?" Adam's expression shifted, a shadow falling across his face. He sighed, the pain of the past surfacing. "I was," he replied softly. "My wife. She died in an accident just a month after our wedding. That was 3 years ago." Stella covered her mouth in shock, her heart sinking at the revelation. "I'm so sorry, Adam. I had no idea." He shook his head slightly, a bittersweet smile playing at his lips. "It's okay. It was hard still as sometimes, but I've learned to live with it. The pain never completely goes away, but we find ways to move forward, don't we?" Stella nodded, feeling an unexpected bond forming between them, a connection forged through their shared experiences of loss and resilience. In that moment, she realized that despite their different circumstances, they both carried wounds that had shaped who they were. Adam stood up, pocketing his keys as he prepared to leave. "Well, I need to head out, but please make yourself at home here. And if you ever need anything at all, don't hesitate to call me." "Thank you, Adam," Stella said sincerely, her voice filled with gratitude. "For everything." He nodded, a gentle yet sad smile on his face. "Take care, Stella, and remember you're not alone." With those parting words, Adam left, leaving Stella sitting in the quiet room, a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Gratitude, hope, and for the first time in a long while, a sense of not being so isolated from the world. When Adam returned home, his mind was full of thoughts about Stella, her daughter, and the difficult journey they had endured. The next day, he made his way to the hospital to visit his father. Mr. Robert was stable, but still required close monitoring and care. As Adam sat by the bedside, he began to recount the events of the past day to his father, how Stella had come into their lives, how she had saved him by calling the ambulance, and the hardships she had faced in her life. Mr. Robert, though weakened by his stroke, listened intently, nodding as Adam spoke. "It sounds like she has been through more than her share of troubles," he murmured, his voice soft but clear. "She has," Adam agreed, his thoughts still lingering on Stella's story. "But despite everything, she's incredibly strong. I think, maybe we can help her rebuild her life, Dad. Maybe we can do more." His father smiled faintly, the warmth of his compassion evident even in his frail state. "You've always had a big heart, Adam. If anyone can make a difference in her life, it's you." Adam squeezed his father's hand, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said. "For now, I just want to make sure she knows she's safe." Adam's father listened with a mix of pride and emotion as his son spoke. His voice, though weakened, was filled with warmth. "You did a very good thing, son. Stella seems like an incredible and courageous woman," he said, his words carrying the weight of sincerity. "It's heartening to see the man you've become, with such a kind heart. I thank God every day for giving me the strength to raise you alone." A comfortable silence followed, both men lost in their thoughts. The quiet was broken when Adam's father, looking thoughtful, spoke again. "Don't you think it would be better to bring Stella and the baby to live closer to us? They could stay at our house. I would like to have more life around, and you wouldn't need to travel so much to see them." Adam considered his father's suggestion. The thought of having Stella and her daughter closer felt right, especially knowing it would bring a sense of vitality and warmth back into their home. "That's a good idea, Dad. I'll talk to Stella about it. I think having them around would bring a lot of joy to our home." A smile spread across his father's face, a light returning to his eyes. It would be wonderful to have a child in the house. It gets so quiet when you're working. With this new plan in mind, Adam said goodbye to his father, promising to seriously consider the proposal and discuss it with Stella. He left the hospital with a sense of hope, envisioning the possibilities that the future might hold for all of them. After a long day working on a major project, Adam was exhausted but determined. He drove to the house where Stella was staying, his mind preoccupied with the conversation he was about to have. When he arrived, he found Stella tidying up the living room, with her baby playing quietly on the floor. "Stella, I have something important to discuss with you," Adam began, sitting down near her. Stella looked at him with curiosity. "What happened, Adam?" He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "My house is big, and since my father fell ill, it's been very quiet. He loves to read, and I know you do too. I was thinking, maybe you and your daughter could come and live with us. You could keep my father company. And he could even help you with your studies if that's something you're interested in." Stella's eyes widened in surprise at the proposal. "You mean live in your house? Me and my daughter?" "Yes," Adam affirmed, his voice gentle but firm. "I think it would be wonderful to have you both there. It would give my father a sense of purpose and companionship, and you would have a safe place to stay. Plus, you'd have access to all the books you could ever want." Stella fell silent, clearly overwhelmed by the generosity of the offer. After a moment, she spoke, her voice trembling slightly. That would be amazing, Adam. I don't even know how to thank you. It would be such a huge help for me and my daughter, and I'd love the chance to study more." Adam smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "There's no need to thank me. You deserve a chance to rebuild your life, and if we can help, I'm more than happy to do so. We're all in this together now." Tears of gratitude welled up in Stella's eyes, and she nodded, unable to fully express her feelings. "Thank you, Adam. This means more to me than you'll ever know." With the decision made, Adam felt a sense of fulfillment. He had found a way to help Stella and her daughter, while also bringing a new sense of life and joy into his father's home. As they discussed the details of the move, Adam couldn't help but feel that this was the beginning of something profoundly positive for all of them. Adam smiled warmly, relieved and truly happy with Stella's response. "Then it's decided. Let's do this. I believe it will be good for all of us." With a heart full of gratitude, Stella accepted the offer and quickly began packing her and her daughter's few belongings. As they made their way back to Adam's house, her heart swelled with hope. This was her chance to study, to rebuild, to make something of herself. When they entered Adam's home, Stella couldn't contain her awe. "Wow, Adam, your house is incredible. You really are a talented architect," she exclaimed, admiring the space with wide eyes. Adam smiled, pleased by her reaction. "Thank you, Stella. I hope you and your daughter feel comfortable here." Over the next few days, Stella quickly became part of the household, and the bond between her and Mr. Robert grew stronger with each passing day. Mr. Robert, with his love of books, eagerly shared his extensive collection with Stella, delighting in introducing her to his favorites. One day, he handed her an old, well-worn book with a fond smile. "This one was one of my favorites when I was younger. I think you'll like it." Stella accepted the book, flipping through the yellowed pages with appreciation. "It looks fascinating. Thank you for sharing this with me, Mr. Robert." As the days turned into weeks, Adam noticed the deep connection that had formed between Stella and his father. She took care of Mr. Robert with a mix of respect and affection, and Mr. Robert, in turn, cherished her company. It became clear to Adam that Stella's presence brought a new energy into the house, and he made the decision to release his father's professional caretaker. Stella had insisted on looking after Mr. Robert when Adam was at work, and her dedication was evident. One afternoon, while they were sitting together, Stella confided in Adam, "I really enjoy taking care of your father. He's been so kind to me and my daughter. It's the least I can do." Adam looked at her with sincere gratitude. "You're already part of the family, Stella. My father and I are so grateful to have you and your daughter here." As Stella settled into the rhythm of life at Adam's house, he realized that while he had offered her shelter, he wanted to offer her something more: independence. One day, as they were chatting in the kitchen, Adam brought up the subject. "Stella, I've been thinking," Adam began carefully. "I'd like to pay you a salary. You've been incredible taking care of my father and helping around the house. I think it's important that you have your own income." Stella looked at him in surprise, clearly taken aback by the offer. "Adam, that's not necessary. You're already giving us a home and everything we need." "I know," Adam replied gently, "but it's important to me that you feel free and independent. I want you to be able to buy what you need for yourself and your daughter without having to ask. This isn't just about taking care of my father, it's about you having the freedom to make your own choices." Stella's eyes filled with emotion, reflecting both gratitude and the melancholy of years spent without that freedom. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You have no idea how much your words mean to me. For so long, my life has been controlled by others, people telling me what I could or couldn't do, where I could go, how I should live. I've been treated like I didn't matter, like my decisions didn't count. The freedom you're offering me now, it's something I hardly dared to dream of anymore." Adam reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You do matter, Stella. Your choices matter, and I want you to have the chance to live your life the way you want to." Stella smiled through her tears, the weight of years of repression slowly lifting. "Thank you, Adam. You've given me and my daughter more than just a home, you've given us a future." As Adam looked at her, he knew that this was only the beginning of something truly special, a new chapter for all of them, filled with hope, freedom, and the possibility of a better tomorrow. Adam's father listened intently, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of a man who had weathered many storms in life. He smiled gently, sensing the weight of his son's confession. "Adam, love has a way of finding us when we least expect it," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "It's been a long time since you allowed yourself to feel this way, and that's understandable. But it sounds like your heart is waking up again, and that's something to embrace, not fear." Adam sighed, staring out at the horizon, the colors of the setting sun casting a warm glow over the porch. "It's just, after everything that happened with my wife, I wasn't sure I'd ever be ready to feel this again. Stella's been through so much, and I don't want to complicate her life. But there's something about her strength, her resilience. It's like she's brought something back to life inside me." His father nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. You've both been through a lot, and that's something you share, a history of struggle and survival. But you've also found a way to support each other. That's the foundation of something real, Adam. Love isn't about complicating each other's lives. It's about enriching them. If your feelings for Stella are genuine, and if she feels the same way, then maybe this is the beginning of something beautiful. Adam remained silent for a moment, contemplating his father's words. But what if she doesn't feel the same way? What if I'm just reading into things because I want to believe there's something more between us? His father smiled knowingly. Son, you'll never know unless you take the risk. Love requires vulnerability, it's never without risk. But if you let fear keep you from exploring this, you might miss out on something truly special. The connection you have with Stella, from everything you've told me, isn't just about gratitude or support. It sounds like there's something deeper there, and if you both feel it, then it's worth pursuing. Adam looked at his father, appreciating the wisdom and the encouragement. You're right, Dad. I can't let fear hold me back. I need to be honest with her and see where this goes. His father patted his hand gently. You've always had a good heart, Adam. Whatever happens, just be true to yourself and to her. That's all you can do. A few days later, Adam found himself alone with Stella in the garden. The evening air was cool and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers, and the soft twilight created a serene atmosphere around them. Hannah was asleep inside, and they both enjoyed the quiet after a long day. Adam turned to Stella, feeling the familiar nervousness in his chest, but determined to speak his truth. Stella, there's something I need to tell you. She looked at him with curiosity, sensing the seriousness in his tone. What is it, Adam? He took a deep breath, gathering his courage. I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've been through together. And I've realized that I've started to develop feelings for you. Real, deep feelings. I wasn't sure I'd ever feel this way again after my wife. But you've brought something back to life in me. I don't want to complicate things, but I can't ignore how I feel anymore. Stella's eyes widened, and for a moment, there was silence between them. Adam braced himself for whatever her response might be, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, slowly, a gentle smile spread across Stella's face, and her eyes softened with understanding. Adam, I've been feeling the same way, she admitted, her voice tender. I didn't know how to tell you, or if I even should. After everything we've both been through, I wasn't sure if it was the right time. But hearing you say this, it feels like maybe we've both found something we didn't expect. Relief washed over Adam as he heard her words. He reached out, gently taking her hand in his. Stella, I don't know where this will lead, but I want to find out. Together. No pressure, no rush, just us, figuring this out one step at a time. Stella nodded, tears of happiness glistening in her eyes. I'd like that, Adam. I'd really like that. As they sat together in the fading light, their hands intertwined, both Adam and Stella felt a sense of hope for the future. It wasn't just about surviving anymore, it was about living, loving, and embracing the possibilities that life had to offer. And for the first time in a long while, they both felt like they were exactly where they were meant to be. Adam's father, his face etched with the wisdom of years, looked at his son with a knowing smile. Son, he began gently, life is far too fleeting to let fear hold you back. If your heart is pulling you towards Stella, you need to let her know. You deserve happiness. Adam, don't let it slip away. Adam absorbed his father's words, the weight of them settling into his mind. Do you really believe that? What if she doesn't feel the same, he asked, doubt creeping into his voice, betraying his vulnerability. His father's smile deepened with reassurance. You'll never truly know unless you take that leap. And from what I've seen, the way she looks at you, the warmth in her eyes, there's more there than you might realize. Spurred on by his father's encouragement, Adam decided that it was time to confront his feelings. A swirl of nervous anticipation and hope filled him as he carefully considered how to approach the conversation with Stella. He longed to know if the growing affection in his heart was mirrored in hers. Later that evening, after putting little Hannah to bed, Adam found Stella sitting quietly in the living room, engrossed in a book. He approached her slowly, his heart pounding against his chest. As he sat down beside her, the comfortable silence between them hung in the air. With a soft but tentative voice, Adam broke that silence. "Stella, can I talk to you about something important?" he asked, his eyes searching hers for any sign of what might come next. Stella placed her book aside, turning her full attention toward him. Her expression was open, inviting. "Of course, Adam. What's on your mind?" she responded, sensing the seriousness of the moment. Adam drew in a deep breath, gathering the courage that had been building throughout the day. "Lately, I've been feeling something more than just friendship for you," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've brought a new light into my life, into this home. I care about you and Hannah more deeply than I ever imagined." Stella's heart skipped a beat, her emotions surging as she listened to Adam's heartfelt confession. "Adam, I feel the same," she replied, her voice trembling with the weight of the moment. "You've been so wonderful to us, more than I ever hoped for." Gently, Adam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Stella, I want to be there for you, not just as a friend, but as someone who truly cares. I want to be a part of your life, and Hannah's too. I want to be there for her as if she were my own daughter." Tears welled up in Stella's eyes, touched by the depth of his sincerity. "That means so much to me, Adam. You've already become part of our family." From that night onward, the bond between Adam and Stella blossomed into something deeper, something more profound. Their relationship flourished as they began to attend social and professional events together. But as they navigated the world as a couple, reactions from others were mixed. Malicious whispers followed them, people casting judgment, some disparagingly referring to Stella as nothing more than the beggar Adam took in. The disapproving stares and cold murmurs were hard to ignore, but Adam remained steadfast, standing tall by Stella's side. With Adam's unwavering support, Stella's confidence grew, and she began to feel secure in their relationship, no longer letting the opinions of others define her. At one such event, a glamorous cocktail party held at an art gallery, Mrs. Lillian, a prominent figure in Adam's social circle, approached them. Her smile was polite and her manner warm. "Adam, Stella," she greeted them with genuine cordiality. "It's a pleasure to see you both here. I've heard about your relationship, and I just wanted to congratulate you both." Stella, momentarily taken aback by the unexpected kindness, returned the smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Lillian," she replied, her voice filled with gratitude. Adam smiled as well, thankful for the support. "It means a lot, Lillian. We really appreciate your congratulations." Mrs. Lillian's eyes twinkled with kindness as she looked between the two of them. True love is hard to find. When you do find it, you hold on to it tightly, no matter what anyone else says. I'm happy for both of you. And with that, she left them, leaving Adam and Stella to savor the moment. Though the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, they knew they had each other, and that was more than enough. Stella thanked Mrs. Lillian, though she couldn't help but feel a bit tense under the woman's scrutinizing gaze. There was something about the way Lillian's eyes lingered on her, as if searching for something hidden beneath the surface, that made Stella uncomfortable. Yet she maintained her composure, her smile polite and controlled. Lillian, with her sharp eyes still fixed on Stella, continued, "It's always refreshing to see new faces at our events. Stella, you have a very unique air about you, something different." Stella responded with a gracious nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Lillian," she replied, keeping her tone cordial. Lillian, smiling yet still studying her closely, added, "Oh, before I forget, I would love to invite both of you to a dinner at my home next week. It would be a pleasure to host you." Adam hesitated, feeling a subtle pressure to accept. The invitation was unexpected, and although he wasn't particularly enthusiastic about attending, he felt a certain obligation. He quickly glanced at Stella, silently gauging her reaction before responding. With a polite smile, Adam said, "We'd be pleased to join you, Mrs. Lillian. We accept the invitation." Lillian's satisfaction was evident. "Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. It will be a delightful evening." Until then, she said, excusing herself with an air of finality as she moved away, leaving Adam and Stella alone once again. Once she was out of earshot, Adam turned to Stella, a hint of concern in his voice. "I'm sorry if I put you on the spot. I felt like we should accept, but I hope it's okay with you." Stella nodded, doing her best to mask her own unease. "It's fine, Adam. I think it will be." "An interesting experience," she replied, her tone more optimistic than she felt.
They continued to enjoy the evening, but the impending dinner at Lillian's house remained at the back of their minds, stirring a mix of curiosity and caution. The lingering thoughts of what the evening might hold made it hard to fully relax.
When the day of the dinner arrived, Adam and Stella dressed for the occasion, both feeling a mix of anticipation and unease. Upon arriving at Mrs. Lillian's home, they were immediately struck by the beauty and grandeur of the house. It was an architectural marvel, a testament to Lillian's reputation as a renowned architect. Every detail seemed meticulously planned and flawlessly executed, from the elegant lines of the modern design to the tasteful incorporation of classic art. The aesthetics were stunning, blending contemporary sophistication with timeless elegance in a way that felt almost intimidating. As they entered, Stella couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed by the opulence. Lillian's world was a far cry from the life she had once known, and the contrast was stark. Adam, sensing her discomfort, gently squeezed her hand as they stepped inside. "Just breathe," he whispered, offering her a reassuring smile. "We'll get through this together." Stella returned his smile, feeling comforted by his presence. "Thank you, Adam. I'm glad we're here together." As they were shown into the dining room, Lillian greeted them with her usual composed grace. The table was set with the finest china, and the atmosphere was formal yet inviting. Lillian's charm was on full display as she welcomed her guests, though Stella couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more behind the woman's polished exterior. Throughout the evening, the conversation flowed easily, but there was an underlying tension that Stella couldn't quite pinpoint. Lillian, while outwardly friendly, occasionally made comments that felt a little too probing, a little too knowing. Stella couldn't tell if it was simply curiosity or something more. Despite the luxurious surroundings and the carefully crafted dinner, Stella remained on edge. As the evening wore on, she couldn't help but wonder what Lillian's true intentions were. Still, with Adam by her side, she felt a strength she hadn't known before. They were navigating this world together, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a team. As the dinner came to a close and they prepared to leave, Lillian walked them to the door, her smile as enigmatic as ever. "I'm so glad you could join me tonight," she said smoothly. "We'll have to do this again soon." Adam and Stella exchanged polite farewells, but as they stepped out into the night air, they both felt a sense of relief wash over them. On the drive home, Adam glanced at Stella, his expression thoughtful. "How did you feel about tonight?" he asked, genuinely curious. Stella took a moment to gather her thoughts before responding. "It was interesting. Lillian is kind, but there's something about her that I can't quite figure out. I felt like she was watching us very closely, almost like she was waiting for something." Adam nodded, understanding her unease. "You're not alone in feeling that way. But no matter what, I'm glad we faced it together." Stella smiled softly, grateful for Adam's support. "Me too. Whatever happens, I know we'll handle it." As they drove on, the towering facade of Lillian's grand home faded into the distance, But the memory of the evening lingered in their minds, leaving them both with more questions than answers. As they entered the grand mansion, Lillian welcomed Adam and Stella with warmth and graciousness, gesturing for them to sit down. Stella, though taken by the elegance of the interior, couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that lingered in the air. Despite the beauty and refinement, the house seemed to lack something vital: warmth, coziness, the feeling of a home that had witnessed joy and laughter. It felt more like a meticulously designed display than a place where happiness thrived. The thought of Lillian living alone in this vast, opulent space added to Stella's unease. "What a beautiful house," Mrs. Lillian Stella commented politely, trying to mask her perception of the atmosphere with a compliment. Lillian's face lit up with pride at the remark. "Thank you, Stella. I've put so much effort into every detail." "It's been my passion for years," she replied, her smile revealing a hint of something deeper. As the evening unfolded, Lillian's gaze lingered on Stella, her expression enigmatic, almost searching. There was something in her eyes, a hidden weight behind her composed exterior. After some time, Lillian began sharing pieces of her personal life, stories of her difficult past, how life had been unkind to her during her youth. The conversation felt heavy, the tone unexpectedly serious, leaving both Adam and Stella puzzled. Sensing there was more behind Lillian's words, Adam leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "Mrs. Lillian, forgive me, but I'm a little confused. Can you tell us why you invited us here tonight?" he asked gently, hoping to bring clarity to the situation. Lillian let out a deep sigh, as if steeling herself for what was to come. Slowly, she rose from her chair and walked to a nearby cabinet, retrieving an old photo album. Her hands trembled slightly as she returned to the table, opening the album with a mix of hesitation and resolve. She flipped through the pages until she stopped at a photo of herself, taken many years ago. In the image, she was visibly pregnant, standing alone in the picture with a distant, almost sorrowful expression. Adam and Stella stared at the photograph, still struggling to grasp the significance. The room was thick with tension, an unspoken truth hovering just out of reach. "Where is the child?" Adam asked carefully, his voice filled with concern as he tried to piece together the fragmented story. Lillian's eyes welled with tears, and she looked directly at Stella, her voice trembling as she spoke the words that would change everything. "The child. She's here. She's you, Stella." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Adam and Stella were both stunned, their minds reeling from the enormity of what had just been said. Stella's breath caught in her throat as she looked at the photo, then back at Lillian, trying to process the impossible truth. Her entire world tilted on its axis. "I am your daughter," Stella asked, her voice trembling, barely able to push the words out. Emotion surged through her, a mix of shock, disbelief, and the stirring of something deeper, a connection she had never known existed.
The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air, leaving everyone at the table in a state of shock. Adam, equally stunned, voiced what they were both thinking. "This seems impossible, Lillian. Stella never knew her mother. How can you be sure that she's your daughter?"
Lillian, her eyes still glistening with tears, nodded slowly. "I had to give you up, Stella. I didn't want to, but life was cruel back then. I was forced to make impossible choices, but I've never stopped searching for you. It's you, I'm sure of it." Stella sat in silence, her mind racing as she looked from Adam to Lillian, trying to comprehend the magnitude of the moment. Her entire life, she had lived with the belief that her mother was lost to her forever, an unknown figure who had vanished from her life before she even had a chance to know her. Now, the woman sitting across from her was telling her she was her mother. It was a reality Stella had never even dared to dream of, and the shock of it was almost too much to bear. Adam reached for Stella's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. He could feel the intensity of her emotions, the storm raging inside her. "Whatever happens, Stella, we'll figure this out together," he whispered, trying to anchor her in the moment. Tears welled in Stella's eyes as she looked at Lillian, a flood of questions and emotions swirling within her. Why? Why now? Why didn't you find me sooner, she asked, her voice breaking with the weight of everything she'd longed to ask her mother but never had the chance. Lillian's voice cracked as she replied, I've been looking for you, Stella. I searched for years, but the world is a vast place. When I finally found out where you were, I didn't know how to approach you. I was afraid you would hate me for leaving you. Stella felt a tear slip down her cheek, the enormity of the moment overwhelming her. I don't know what to feel, she admitted, her voice a whisper. I don't know how to process this. Adam sat beside her, quietly supportive, knowing that this was Stella's journey to navigate, but ready to be there every step of the way. Lillian, for all her grace and composure, was now just a mother yearning for connection, her eyes filled with a lifetime of regrets and hope. As the three sat in the dimly lit room, the air thick with emotion, they knew this was only the beginning of a long and complicated path. The revelation had shattered everything Stella once knew about herself, and the journey to understanding and healing would not be easy. But for the first time, Stella felt the fragile beginnings of something she had always yearned for: a sense of belonging, a connection to her past that could reshape her future. Lillian, her eyes brimming with tears, began to recount the painful story she had kept buried for so many years. Her voice wavered as she spoke, but she pressed on, determined to share the truth. When I was young, I met your father, Stella. He seemed like a decent man, even though he had a serious problem with drinking. We were together, and when I became pregnant with you, I thought things would get better. But after you were born, everything changed. He became unpredictable and violent. And on the very day we left the hospital, he took you from me. He disappeared without a trace, and I've been searching for you ever since. The room was thick with silence, each word from Lillian carrying the weight of a lifetime of regret and sorrow. Adam and Stella listened, their emotions conflicted, as Lillian continued her story. I did everything I could to find you, Lillian said, her voice thick with emotion. I hired private investigators, spent every penny I had, but it was as if you both had vanished from the face of the earth. There were no leads, no clues, nothing. It was like chasing a ghost. I never gave up hope, but it was a constant battle against the darkness of not knowing. Stella, absorbing every word, felt a torrent of emotions crashing over her: anger, confusion, sadness, and a desperate need for answers. The anger stemmed from years of wondering why her mother had never been there, mixed with an understanding of the pain Lillian had endured in trying to find her. So the man who raised me, he stole me from you. Stella's voice quivered, the enormity of the revelation shaking her to her core. Lillian nodded, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. Yes, Stella, he took you, the greatest treasure of my life, and vanished. I spent all these years trying to find you, never knowing if I'd ever see you again. Stella struggled to process it all, the revelation still too fresh, too overwhelming. Her hands trembled as she tried to make sense of everything she had just learned. How can you be so sure that I'm your daughter? She asked, her voice wavering between disbelief and the desperate need to know the truth. Why only now, after all these years? Lillian's expression softened, a mixture of relief and lingering pain crossing her face. When I first saw you at the event with Adam, something stirred deep inside me, a feeling, a connection I couldn't ignore. And then, I noticed the birthmark on your hand, the same one I have. It was the last physical memory I had of you before you were taken from me. It was like a sign that I couldn't turn away from. She paused for a moment, gathering herself before continuing. After that day, I hired the investigator I've worked with for years to dig deeper. I needed answers, and he finally gave me what I had been searching for. He tracked down your father. He was living on the streets, lost to his addiction. A shadow of the man I once knew. The investigator approached him, offering to buy him more drinks, and in his drunken state, he confessed everything. He told the truth, how he took you from me, how he never sent you to school, never worked a real job, always living in hiding, terrified that someone would find you. He even admitted that he never made proper documents for you because he was too afraid it would lead back to me. He was out of his mind, trying to erase every trace that could connect us. Stella sat there, stunned, the weight of Lillian's words sinking in. The world she had known her entire life suddenly felt like an illusion. The man who raised her had built a life of lies, and the woman before her, who she had just met, was the mother she had always believed was lost to her forever. The realization was almost too much to bear, and she struggled to find her footing in the tidal wave of emotions crashing over her. Adam, sensing Stella's turmoil, reached out and took her hand, his touch grounding her in the present moment. "We'll figure this out together," he whispered, his voice steady despite the shock he himself was feeling. "You're not alone in this." Lillian, still teary-eyed, looked at Stella with a mix of longing and hope. "I know this is overwhelming, Stella. I can't even begin to imagine what you're feeling right now. But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, never stopped hoping that one day I would find you. You were taken from me, and it broke me in ways I can't describe. But now, standing here with you, I feel like maybe we can start to heal. If you're willing to let me be a part of your life." Stella, her voice trembling, looked at Lillian with a mix of fear and curiosity. I don't know what to feel. This is all so much." She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "But maybe we can start with small steps. I'm not ready for everything all at once, but I think I'd like to get to know you." Lillian's face softened with gratitude, the tension in the room easing ever so slightly. "Of course, Stella. We'll take it one step at a time. Whatever you need, I'll be here." As the three of them sat together in the dimly lit room, the atmosphere was still heavy with emotion, but there was also a glimmer of hope for healing, for understanding, and for the possibility of a future where the broken pieces of their lives might be mended, slowly, one step at a time. Stella sat in stunned silence, trying to process every word Lillian had shared. It felt as though a veil had been lifted from her life, revealing truths she had never imagined existed. "He lived in hiding, always afraid of being found, and he dragged me into that shadow with him," Stella said quietly, coming to grips with the weight of what Lillian had told her. Adam, sitting between the two women, could hardly believe what he was hearing. His gaze shifted between Stella and Lillian, his expression reflecting the surreal nature of the situation. "It's an unbelievable story," he said, shaking his head in amazement. "It's hard to wrap my mind around everything that's happened." Stella's voice wavered as she tried to articulate her feelings. "I never imagined anything like this was happening in my life. It's overwhelming, so much to take in." Lillian, her eyes still glistening with tears, nodded in understanding. "I know, my dear. It's a shock for all of us." She paused, her voice softening as she added, "Despite everything he did, I arranged for your father to be taken to a care facility. He's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he'll spend the rest of his life receiving care there." Adam, still trying to grasp the magnitude of the situation, asked, "You did that, even after everything he did to you and to Stella?" Lillian let out a long sigh, her expression one of quiet resolve. "Yes. Despite all of it, he's a sick man who deserves compassion. I spent years consumed by anger, but today, seeing my daughter in front of me, I realize that the happiness I feel outweighs any bitterness. I can't hold on to the past anymore. I want to focus on the future, on what we can build from here." Stella looked at Lillian, her heart a swirl of gratitude and confusion. "Thank you, Lillian," she said softly, her emotions conflicted. "I'm still trying to understand everything, but I appreciate what you've done for him, despite everything. He's still my father, and it means something that he's being taken care of." From that moment on, Stella's life shifted dramatically. The emotional revelations opened a door to a new chapter in her life, one filled with possibilities she had never considered before. She began visiting Lillian regularly, and over time, they both made efforts to build the relationship they had lost. Slowly but surely, they started to create new memories, trying to fill the void of the years they had missed together. During one of her frequent visits to Lillian's house, Stella felt a deep sense of hope and joy at the prospect of a new beginning. They sat together on the spacious porch, the afternoon sun casting a warm glow over them. As they sipped tea, their conversation turned to Stella's future. "You've always been interested in studying more, haven't you?" Stella, Lillian asked, her tone gentle yet full of purpose. Stella's eyes lit up with hope as she answered, "Yes, I've always dreamed of studying architecture, but I never had the opportunity. Life kept getting in the way." Lillian smiled warmly, a look of determination in her eyes. "Well, I think it's time to make that dream come true. I want you to enroll in the best architecture school in the country. I'll take care of everything: tuition, supplies, whatever you need. This is your chance." Stella was rendered speechless by the offer, her heart swelling with emotion. She blinked back tears of gratitude, unable to find the right words. "Would you really do that for me?" I don't even know how to thank you, Lillian," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. Lillian reached across the table, taking Stella's hand in hers. "After everything we've lost, it's the least I can do," she said softly, her eyes filled with both love and regret. "And there's more," she continued. "I'm building a room for Hannah here at the house. I want to be a part of her life, to be there for every moment of her growth, something I tragically missed with you." Stella's tears flowed freely now, a mixture of joy, gratitude, and the bittersweet realization of the past they could never get back. But in this moment, she also felt a deep sense of hope for the future, a future where she could fulfill her dreams, supported by the mother she never knew she had. "Thank you," Stella whispered, her voice trembling. "Thank you for believing in me, for giving me this chance, and for being here now." Lillian squeezed her hand gently, her own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We're starting fresh, Stella. We can't change the past, but we can make the future everything we've dreamed of, together." And with that, a new chapter began for both of them, one built on healing, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Stella, now openly crying, felt an overwhelming mix of happiness, relief, and gratitude. She wiped her tears, her voice soft but sincere. "That means so much to me, Lillian. Hannah will love having a grandmother like you." One day, during one of their many warm and heartfelt conversations, the topic took a deeply emotional turn. While Hannah played joyfully in the garden, Lillian confided in Stella, her voice gentle but filled with vulnerability. "Stella, my greatest dream, now that I've found you, is to hear you call me mother, but I understand that this is all still very new, and I respect your time. I just want you to know that I'll do everything I can to earn that title." Stella, deeply moved by Lillian's words, responded with sincerity. "You're already doing so much, Lillian. I can't even begin to express how much I appreciate every gesture, every effort. I know that as time passes, we'll continue to grow closer. I can feel it." As time flowed by, their bond naturally strengthened. Stella's regular visits to Lillian's house became something she looked forward to, and Hannah adored spending time with her newfound grandmother. The little girl's laughter filled the once quiet home, creating a warmth that had been missing for so long in both Lillian and Stella's lives. The house, once a symbol of loneliness, now echoed with the sounds of family, love, and joy. Years passed, and Stella's hard work and dedication to her studies paid off. With her architecture degree nearly complete, the day of her graduation finally arrived. The ceremony was a grand celebration, filled with teachers, family members, and friends, all gathered to witness Stella's remarkable achievement. It was a day of triumph, a testament to her resilience and strength in overcoming countless challenges and adversities. As Stella walked down the aisle toward the stage, she felt a surge of pride and gratitude. Her eyes scanned the sea of faces in the audience, searching for three very special people: her husband, who had stood by her side through every trial; her father-in-law, who had become a loving and supportive father figure in her life; and of course Lillian, her greatest champion in architecture, and so much more. Stepping onto the stage, Stella took a deep breath before addressing the audience. Her voice trembled slightly with emotion as she began her speech. "Today, I stand here not just because of my own efforts, but because of the invaluable support of some very special people," she said, her heart full of gratitude. She continued, her voice steady but filled with warmth, "To my husband, who has always been my rock, encouraging me to reach my goals, even when they seemed impossible. To my father-in-law, who welcomed me into his heart as a daughter and gave me strength during the hardest times." Then, she paused for a moment, her gaze locking onto Lillian's tearful eyes in the audience. "And of course, to my dear mother, Lillian." "Mom," she said, the word rolling off her tongue with a deep sense of love and belonging. "You gave me more than just the chance to pursue my dreams. You gave me a home, a family, and the love I've always wished for." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in, and then a ripple of applause began, growing into a powerful ovation. Lillian's eyes filled with tears of joy as she listened to Stella's heartfelt acknowledgement, her heart swelling with pride. It was the moment she had dreamed of for so many years, finally hearing Stella call her mom, not just in words, but in the truest sense of the bond they had built. For Stella, it was the culmination of a journey that had started in darkness but had led her to a place of light, love, and family. She had gained so much more than an education. She had found herself, her family, and a future that felt brighter than ever before. Stella's words had struck a deep chord with everyone present, but none more so than Lillian. As the word mom slipped from Stella's lips, Lillian felt a wave of emotion that she had never experienced before. Tears streamed down her face as she covered it with her hands, overcome with the sheer magnitude of the moment. Years of longing, searching, and heartbreak had culminated in this instant, a moment of pure love and connection that she had dreamed of for so long. When the graduation ceremony ended, Lillian found Stella away from the noise and chaos of the crowd. Her eyes shimmered with tears as she approached her daughter, her voice thick with emotion as she began to speak. "My dear daughter," Lillian said, her voice trembling, "for so many years, my heart felt incomplete. A vital part of me was lost, but I always knew, deep down, that this day would come. The day I could finally see you standing here, growing into the incredible woman you've become." Stella, still trying to absorb the intensity of the moment, listened quietly, holding her mother's hands tightly in her own. The connection between them was undeniable, a bond that had been forged through pain but had now found its way to love. Lillian continued, her words heavy with the weight of years of separation. "When you were taken from me, my life became filled with silence. Each day, I fought not just to find you but to keep hope alive. And now, seeing you here graduating, strong and radiant, that hope has turned into reality. You are everything I dreamed you would be and more." There was a tenderness in Lillian's voice as she spoke about the years they had lost. "All those years, I imagined what it would be like to hold you again, to touch your face, to share laughter and tears with you. I missed so many moments, so many milestones that a mother should have shared with her daughter. But standing here with you today, I realized that every tear, every prayer was worth it. You, Stella, are my miracle." Stella, deeply moved by her mother's words, whispered back, "Mom, I missed you too, even though I didn't know who you were. There was always an emptiness inside me, a space that nothing could fill until today." Lillian nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "I know, my daughter, and no matter how many years we lost, we have a second chance now, We will create new memories, build new moments together. I will be here for every step you take." The two embraced tightly, a hug that bridged the gap of years spent apart. It was a hug that solidified their bond, sealing away the pain of the past and making room for a future filled with love and hope. "You've completed me in a way I never thought possible," Lillian whispered, her voice filled with love. Stella, looking up at her mother with gratitude, responded, "Mom, you've shown me the true meaning of family and love. I am so thankful for everything." Hand in hand, they left the graduation ceremony, both feeling renewed and full of hope for the future. They knew that from this moment on, their lives would be immeasurably happier. Their story had become a testament to the power of maternal love, a love that could overcome any barrier, endure any hardship, and never give up, no matter what life threw in its way. Now that you've journeyed with us through this incredible story, what have you learned so far? We'd love for you to share one thing from this story that resonated with you and that you'll bring into practice in your life. Comment below and let us know. If you liked this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.